What's up, y'all? So I'm just chilling right now in the pool, and I was just getting some ideas and things coming to me. And really, when you realize what you have to do, man, it's all about conviction in your life, right? So whatever it is that you want, you have to realize that what's blocking you is the conviction and the belief that, like, can you get it, can you not get it, whatever. That's what's really blocking you. So at the end of the day, if you don't believe you can get something, you're not even going to be able to figure out how to get it. Like, I'm trying to think of a simple example, right? But if you don't believe that you can be, let's say, a gym trainer or whatever, right? If you don't believe that that's possible for you, you're not going to figure out the steps to get there. You know what I mean? You're not even going to come up with the steps in your mind, think of the steps in your mind, whatever it is, and come up with action steps, plans, break it down into small little pieces and chunks that is digestible, right? You're not going to be able to break it down, your goals, into small steps to move forward, because it's just how the mind works. The mind will block you, guys. A little thing in the pool there. The mind will block you from solutions if you don't allow solutions to come to you. Because if you're just focusing on problems all the time, then that's not going to help you at all. You have to realize too that conviction is really all that you need. If you believe you can do something, that you already have done something, then the solutions come to you. A lot of people think that they have to start thinking about the solutions as far as, I don't have it, how do I get it? Right? But that's not how the brain works. The brain works it works the most effectively when you work backwards, right? So when you think you have something, and you imagine that you have something, then you're like, oh, okay, well, I have it now. So how did I get here? You say that when you actually imagine how you got somewhere, then you start thinking, how did I get here? And you start figuring out the steps of how you got there in your own imagination. Like, literally, if you imagine yourself, like going back to the trainer example, if you imagine yourself as a trainer already, and you start embodying that, like, okay, I'm already living this lifestyle, then it's like a reflection. It's like, man, this is so great. How did I get here? Just remembering and being humble, right, of where I already am. How did I end up getting here in the first place? Like, that's huge right there. Because once in your mind and your emotions, once you really see yourself as living a certain way, and then you feel that you're already living that certain way, then again, your mind processes how to actually achieve that in your life. It's called alignment. It's just how alignment works, how a manifestation works. Because what happens, guys, what's really happening is that when you embody an emotion, your mind has to make sense of that emotion. So if you feel abundant, right, if you feel all of these emotions, we got birds right there. If you're feeling the emotions that you are corresponding and connecting to a certain image or goal in your mind or in your life, then your body is going to want to reflect that on the outside. It's going to want to go towards that in physical reality. So for example, with the gym trainer, right, if you feel like you already have that life, then your brain has to make sense and rationalize with you, right? It's like, well, he feels like he is having that in his life, so therefore I have to match what he's feeling like. I have to match his environment to what he's feeling like. I have to match his environment to his emotions. You see what I mean? That's how the brain works. That's how the gears start running. Once you get in an emotion, see, everybody tries to think logic first. They try to figure out the problem. Just get into the emotion and your mind will run the gears. Because if you try to figure out logically a problem without addressing the emotions and the state that you are in first, you're only going to cause whatever thoughts and whatever scenarios that correspond to your emotions. For example, if you're trying to figure out a problem, right? Let's say like, oh, I really want my dream or whatever, but you're all stressed out about it and you're thinking about it under an emotion of stress, all you're going to do is find ways and solutions as to how to become more stressed, because that is the emotion you're in. And then it becomes, as you could see, a vicious cycle. So what you want to do then is get yourself in an abundant state and do whatever you need to get into that state to where you're like, man, I have it all. I have what I need. I'm very grateful, etc. And then the answers will come to you only afterwards. You have to place the emotion ahead of the logic, because the logic will naturally come with the emotion. It doesn't matter if you even come up with the answers. Your brain's going to trick you, and you may even think, oh, but that'll never work. If you're, for example, under an emotion without conviction, under an emotion without confidence. Okay, does that make sense? So I mean, that's really the bottom line and the biggest thing. Do not try to act logically or think logically about whatever it is you're trying to get. Because if you do that, again, it really doesn't matter at the end, because again, you could come up with the best plan ever, but if you're under again, emotion of stress, for example, you're just gonna stress out like, oh, I don't know if it'll ever work. And then you immediately veer away from the solution, okay? But when you're in a state of abundance and you see that you have everything that you need, everything that you want, then everything becomes clear, because then you're like, oh, it's very easy to access all of these things. The only thing, for example, depending on what you want, right? Maybe the only boundary or limit is money, right? Maybe money is the only thing that stands in the way. So then you're like, you got to break it down. And you got to not, for example, with money, not see it as a big deal. It's like, okay, well, I have money already, right? A lot of you probably have money. You're like, yeah, $10 in my wallet, but that's still something, right? Be grateful for that. Like, you still have money. You got that somehow. And ask yourself too, okay, well, how did I get this money? A lot of people trade time for money, which is a mistake, but ultimately you want to trade value for money. You want to trade value for money. And so you want to go, okay, what are some skills? What are something I'm good at that I could really benefit someone else with, that I could really teach them and help them with? And how can I begin to deliver that value to them? And then your gears start working, right? Then you start thinking, okay, well, how did someone that's already done it do it, right? And then you study those people, and then you start seeing patterns and trends. And you're like, okay, well, these people, you know, they maybe put out YouTube content. They maybe went out into the world and talked to these businesses, these folks, these people, whatever it is. And then again, the gears run, right? Then you start figuring it out. Okay, this is how I do it. And then you just got to take action. Then you start taking action. You start failing, right? But as you fail, you learn. And the more you learn, then you can adapt until you start getting more on the correct path. Now, if you go, okay, that's all great, but how do I take action? Because taking action is not the easiest thing, right? And even that, again, is an emotion, because of course, if you are unconfident and the emotion you are feeling is unconfident, unsure, unsafe, right? Unsafe is basically not being authentic. Then yeah, of course it's gonna be hard to take action, because then you're just gonna be like, oh, you're gonna be all scared. You're gonna be in the wrong state of mind. So you want to change your emotions in order to fit that of someone who takes action. It means moving differently, speaking differently, breathing differently, everything. Your entire physiology has to change if you want to take more action in your life. Your entire emotional states have to change if you want to take more action in your life. That's really the key to it. Again, it's putting yourself in a state. Okay, I refer to it as like playing pretend. Like when you're a little kid, like perhaps you played, I don't know, like pirates or something, right? You pretended to be like a pirate, maybe a police officer, whatever, all kinds of things, right? And depending on who you are, you probably in that moment were really like convinced you're that person, or not even just convinced you're that person, but still, maybe, right? Like you were just like really taking on that role. Like an actor is very serious about the character they play. That's how a lot of people, and all of us really, were as kids, right? We just are really into whatever we're playing with passion too. That's how you got to start out. If you don't know, okay, how do I become someone who's more confident and has more conviction when it comes to going towards my goals, going towards success and achieving success by taking lots of action, then you have to ask yourself, who am I when I'm 100% confident with 100% conviction? Who am I when I am that person? And how do I cultivate that in my life? Like, how do I begin to be that person, to play that character, right? And it's not even just like playing a character. It's about discovering what your version of that is, right? And I would suggest this too, like take inspiration from other people who are confident, right? Perhaps people you look up to, whatever it is, right? And then go, okay, what is my version of that? That's the key question to ask. What is my version of that, right? If you are a salesperson and you're trying to be more confident in sales, you go and you look at maybe Jordan Belfort, right? A Grant Cardone, maybe someone like that. And you go, what is my version of this, right? Like, who am I? Like, when I watch these people, you study their physiology, you see that maybe they talk a little bit quicker because they're confident about what they're saying and what they're spitting out and spewing out there, right? Or maybe you just move differently. You move with passion. You move with like let's go, let's go, let's go, right? And you just start noticing again their physiology, how they move, how they speak, their tone of voice, everything. And you begin to go and ask over and over again until you get it and start putting it into your life. What is my version of this? And if you do that, you take action from that spot. Taking action is easy because then you have the higher upper ground too. Like you'll go and take action and maybe you'll find yourself in an awkward position, right? But if anything, the other person will begin to really get this confidence and conviction in you. Like they'll start to be more confident in what you're saying, even if it starts out as awkward. Because if you just hold your stance by basically just keeping your physiology firm, don't let it shake due to external circumstances. This is the problem that a lot of people have, right? Like say, let's just, I don't know, even like asking a girl out or something, right? A lot of people, they're expecting an outcome and they're focused on the outcome. They're focused on what they're trying to get out of the situation, which is why a lot of people fail. Because they're so attached to the outcome, then when the outcome doesn't go their way, because that's all they're focusing on, then their physiology and their stance, their firm ground gets knocked off. It gets affected. Why? Because they are focusing the whole time, hopefully you can still hear me, they're focusing the whole time on an outcome. When you let go of the outcome, you detach from the outcome, then again, you're going to start to, you're just not going to focus on the outcome anymore, and instead you're going to be more confident. Because you come from a frame of, I don't need anything from this situation, I'm just trying something out. And really it's that mindset right there of trying things out. I'm just trying things out, I'm just playing, pretend, right? Just basically entertaining myself. I'm just going out in the world, entertaining myself and seeing what happens. Even when it comes to your goals, you're like, oh, well, what about your goals? Same thing. You're just entertaining yourself, you're seeing what will happen, you're trying things. You know, you're experimenting. Something doesn't work, all right, implement it, adapt, whatever you have to do. So that's really what you should take away from this. I've kind of yapped, but that's what I'm going to leave you with today, because I think that's plenty to think about. Just remember, you want to cultivate an attitude of conviction. And in order to do so, you really have to start just changing your physiology, man, changing your emotions, changing the way you move. Because if you're slumped over and like, oh, right, and dragging around, slugging around like you're tired, then of course you're going to feel tired, because that is how you're acting. But if you start moving with quicker pace, you start talking differently and just doing everything differently, then it's going to be a lot different. So I hope you like this video. Go ahead and hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.